How do you convey these stakes in the adventure and also as a dungeon master? Because you are effectively playing one of the most genius entities that has ever existed in D&D. That is a challenge for a dungeon master, certainly, and certainly a challenge, hopefully, for the players to defeat.
Yeah, you've got to, and the adventure does a really good job of getting you into the story in kind of an innocuous or small way at first. It doesn't feel like you're saving the multiverse when you first come into the story. You're doing something kind of local. It doesn't have the gravity of saving the whole multiverse, but the pieces start to get put into place and you realize what you're doing is actually more important than you think. It's the first stage of this rocket that is going to be your adventure. And so the DM can just sort of sit back and see how that goes without having to worry about how to portray Vecna, because Vecna hasn't come into the story fully yet. And I think that's the way that the DM really sort of handles the situation, is just let the adventure play out and be thinking and listening to your players, letting them sort of guide the story, shape the story, and the adventure over time will start to layer on pieces that will give the story more weight and that will give the players more to contemplate. And their sort of fear and respect of Vecna as an adversary will emerge through what they're experiencing in those early stages. Like the first time they come into contact with the cultists of Vecna, it's like, okay, they're just cultists, we can deal with that. But the first time you learn what they're doing and why, suddenly you're like, oh, this could be big, this could be a problem. That's super fun, the sort of gradually unpeeling of the story. And the fact that he's this god of secrets, the sort of person who knows all the unknowables, means that he can kind of show up anywhere and his influence can be felt in a variety of very sinister and fun ways through secret cults or hidden lore in books and mysterious libraries that he's basically invaded and plundered.
Do you ever get jealous that you can't be in an adventure that we've created?
That I can't be in an adventure?
Yeah, like what the plot is. Because this is the one thing I don't love about this job, is I read every single D&D book for the interviews, and I never get to be surprised. I still enjoy the adventures, even knowing what the plot is, but this has to happen to you where you're like, I wish I didn't know all the plot. Like, it would have been so exciting to be the player in this, or you're just mainly always in DM mode.
I don't feel that terribly,
Yeah.
Mostly because in the campaigns that I play in and the campaigns that I run, it's always sort of a kit-bashed kind of thing anyway.
Yeah.
Where enough has changed that it feels new. And that's one of the great things about D&D Adventures, including Vecna Eve of Ruin, is once a dungeon master gets their hands on it and decides, I'm going to run this, then you never really know what's in it, because the dungeon master is going to take liberties and licenses, and they're going to maybe drop some stuff and insert some stuff. And it's going to take on an aspect that was never actually present in the written text, Yeah. Because an adventure is just essentially a guide that the DM then takes and goes, okay, I got the thrust of it. I'm going to run it with my players. And there's nothing in the adventure that says it must be run this way.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that lack of surprise, because I know if I were to go to Gen Con and I were to sit in on a game that a DM was running and they're using Vecna Eve of Ruin, chances are that experience is almost completely novel. That I would be
completely unique.
Yeah, I'd be surprised and delighted by its uniqueness, even though I worked on the adventure. And that's just the nature of D&D and adventures in general.